welcome back to another video, and I'm finally doing a process video of the cards that I make with the Julie Netting stamps. After 2 tries, I thought I'd give it a third try, third time's a charm, and I'm doing a voiceover for this, so we'll see how this goes. The papers I'm using is from Crate Paper, and it's called Emma's Shop Collection, and I got this from Paula. She sent me a whole bunch of papers, 12x12s and 6x6. So thank you, Paula. And I'm taking one of the papers and scoring it at 2 inches with the small Martha Stewart scoreboard with a bow folder I had since the beginning of time. Well, since I started stamping. And I've taken another one and scoring it at 3 inches, basically in half. And I'll be doing this again with another 2 pieces of paper. And these card bases I learned how to do from Happy Diane, so thank you, Diane. And these are so easy to make. I can make, depending on how many papers are in a pad, between 6 or 7 cards with using the same papers in the collection to dress the dolls and accessorize with them. So I whip out a lot of cards from a paper pad. That's why I go through them so quickly. The paper pads, that is. Now I'm getting the Miracle Tape, which I love. It's from Viva Las Vegas Stamps, and I've been using it also from the beginning of time. Well, I've been stamping since I was a sophomore in high school, so a long time, over 20 years. And I'm taking the tape, which is 1/4 of an inch, and putting it on 3 sides of the one that is scored at 3 inches. And putting another piece of tape on the one that is scored at 2 inches. And I'll be doing the same thing with the other 2 cards. Like I said earlier, I make between 6 to 7 cards at a time with the paper pad, and that takes practically all day with making the card bases and stamping the girls out and stamping their clothing and coloring and cutting them out and putting them on the cards. I do take breaks, of course, but I figured for the sake of time, I'd work on 2 cards. And also for the sake of battery life on my camera and the sake of my card on the camera. It'll be easier to do too. Now I'm taking the tape off and folding that in half. And you'll see the white showing on these 2 pieces of paper. That's 6 by 3. And what I usually do, if it's non-directional, I usually put tape on the one that's showing the white more. That way you won't see it when you put it on the put together. And if it's directional, I put the tape on the right side, and then I usually hide it with a piece of paper or lace or some kind of trim to hide it. Some of the paper pads have that border on the top, and I sometimes use that and then try to put the dolls covering the whole of that paper pad, that strip of paper. Now I'm taking the scoreboard and buttoning up the one that is scored at 2 inches and taking the tape off, and I'm taking the other piece that is at 3 inches and 6 and buttoning that up against the scoreboard as well. And that way it's easy not to make sure everything's even, not one side's bigger than than the other, and I learned that trick from Happy Diane as well. I do have the big scoreboard, and it's just easier to do this with the small one. Doesn't take a lot of space. It's easier with the bigger scoreboard, but you can do it with the small one. And now I decided it needed a little something. And in this paper pack collection, there was a piece, or two pieces actually, that have the paper that has strips on it that looks like books. So I taking the Fiskars trimmer that you see there and cutting two strips. And I'm going to be using wet glue to adhere them to the card fronts. I decided it needed a little something, so I decided to use that. And at first, I was going to use Elmer's glue, and I decided not to use that because it's a little watery. I decided to use good old Annie's tacky. Voila. The card front for that is done, for the card base. And notice how I'm not getting my fingers that have glue on it on that little strip and ruining the card front. I mean the card base. Well, it is a card front, but it's the base of the card. And now I already pre-stamped the Julie Doll that I'll be using. It's one of the new ones. It's Betsy, and I got this from Jonna and Happy Mail. She's one of the Scrappy Camper sisters. And I stamped it on book text with black archival. That's what she looks like. Well, part of her. I like using book text. I do sometimes use scrapbook paper that have text on it, but mostly book paper. And I'm going to be using my Neocolor 2s and a water brush to color her in. I do have the light skin tone markers by Prima, but I decided to use my Neos. I'm using a apricot for her skin and shading with, I think that's the brown umber. Like that, you can see that, but sorry about that. You see me trying to look for the name of the color, and it's all blurry, so you can't have to bother doing that. You can't see. I'm no expert in coloring with the neos or markers. I just take the neo and scribble in the color, and then I'm taking the brown and basically doing a little shading in between the legs and where her top of her swimsuit and her neck and her part of her head and part of her arms and stuff. I use the apricot a lot for the skin, so I'm tearing it off because it's down to the paper. In watching this, doing it, I'm thinking going quickly with scribbling the color onto the paper, but watching it, I'm really not. And I'm using the yellow for her hair, so they're both going to be blonde. Taking the water brush, and I lost the cap to that, so you'll see me reaching over there to make sure I squeeze a little bit of the water out to get the brush wet. I was at a scrapbooking store for the art journaling classes that I go to, and I popped the top off of the water brush, and the top went flying, and I couldn't find it, so. And that brush I had forever too. Not as long as the bone folder, but a long time. And there's what she looks like, all colored. You see me every once in a while going off on another area of the book page to wipe the brush to make sure that don't get too much. Um, I don't want to say color the on the girl. Get some of it off. And she's done, and while they're drying, I'm going to stamp out their clothing. Again, I'm using the same paper collection, and I already picked out a couple pieces of paper. And that flower one that you'll see, that's going to be a mistake. Because I also used that same paper for the card base. So she blended in too well for that card. So I ended up not using that card base for her. I had to make another one. But that spoiler alert. I'm using the same black archival to stamp with. I decided one was going to have just her swimsuit and the other one was going to be her cover up. Well, her in the cover up. So that's why I did 2 cards. I forget how sticky those stamps are when you first get them. A lot of my Julie Nightingale stamps are no longer that sticky anymore. And a lot of it's a couple of them, the rubber is coming off of the cling. So I've been using them a lot. I love her stamps. And that's the Fiskars stamp press that I'm using. I normally don't use it. In the beginning I did when I was working with these stamps, but now I've just used the plastic sheet that they come on because I make so many and it's just easier than taking it on and off the stamp press for me. Now I'm doing her bow. Now I was going to use the plastic for this one, but I noticed that plastic is not as thick as the ones that used to be on, the older stamps. And even I noticed the rubber's different on these. It's a tan rubber as opposed to the teal or blue that was on the previous Julie Nunny stamps. Cut those out, not fussy cut them too closely, just, cut them out to put to the side. And then fussy cut them when everything's together. Now I'm going to be getting a Prisma color pencil in gray to do the shading of the clothing. But you still cannot see, I think that's either French gray or the 50% gray. And I just basically go over the lines of the outfits. And I learned this trick from watching another YouTuber, and Nicole, I can't think of her name for the life of me. She does journal pages with the Julie Nunning stamps. I've been watching her for the last year and a half, maybe, and that's when she started doing the journal pages with the Julie Netting stamps once a month. She hasn't posted them to YouTube lately, but she's been doing them, and watching her, I learned that trick with the shading. She uses Copics. I don't have Copics, so I use my pencil. It just works just as well. It really brings out the folds in the clothing. I'm even doing the little bits of her bathing suit and her bow. I think I did that too. Or maybe not. I think I did the bow and the skirt. And while I was shading, I think I was thinking that one of them needed the pocket to be highlighted. You see me thinking, so I'm going back to the paper pad. And I'm going to be pulling out the one with the strips of paper that look like books. After looking through the papers to make sure. This wasn't a full pad. So, getting out the stamp again. Getting out the ink pad just a little bit. And I use the ink pad cover to take the stamp off because that was really sticky. And I'm going to be cutting that out. Tell you, doing this process video was not easy because I have the tripod almost right next to me with the camera on it, so sort of got out of the way trying to put things to the side while doing this. Now the ever so fun part that you'll see fussy cutting. Now I'm looking at that and deciding if I want to cut the slit off that cover up out or not. And so far I decided not to. But then I changed my mind, you'll see later. Another spoiler alert. And cutting the bathing suit was, well, not difficult. It wasn't easy. It's like cutting her smaller stamp sets. And they're small too. And I don't usually, well, I haven't been using those sets lately. Probably because they're so hard to cut out, their clothing. And if I do use them, I'm usually coloring the outfits in as opposed to paper piecing. For that reason, because it's so small. getting one of the girls and figuring out which outfit she wants to wear. Well, I'm cleaning up somewhat now. Putting the needles away. And I'm using Aleene's Tacky, as you can see, gluing her outfit together. And there you see figuring out the cover up. And I think, yeah, I decided to cut that slit out, and that meant putting her bottom of her bikini on as well. And it's funny, when I was cutting that out, you see that paper was big polka dot, well, good sized polka dots. And when I was cutting that swimsuit out, you saw none of the polka dots. At least for the top. The bottom had a couple. Well, partly. And with the cover up, you'll never even see them. Lining it up to make sure everything was squared away. And then pressing down. Trying not to get glue on the clothes. Now cutting the bow for her hair. As try as I might, trying to not get myself in frame while doing this, I managed to do so. I so needed it. Oh, webcam. There she is. Isn't she cute? Now I'm gonna dress the other one in the flower bikini. Now she's done and she's cute too. And now to cut them out, which you don't see. So I'm holding it close to me so our eye can see. And I try not to worry too much about the feet because that usually gets cut off when I do the cards. The cards are 4x6, and the Julie Nutting dolls are usually much bigger than 6 inches. And there she is. And now I'm going to get my craft mat and my X-Acto knife and cut out those pieces of her arms, between her arms and her head. And I had the cover to the X-Acto knife, which I also had forever from the beginning of time, but it got lost on my desk. I don't know what happened to it, so I've been putting the knife inside one of those sanding blocks that I have to keep it covered. I think it might have fallen behind my desk, but I look for that cover everywhere. And there she is, all cut out. I'm putting the knife away. I'm getting the foam mounting tape. that I use to put her on my cards. And the foam mounting tape that I use is from the 99-cent store. And right now I'm auditioning the girls to see who belong to where. And you can see I discovered that that one blends in too well with that card base. And I didn't like her on the other one. So I decided to just do one card, or finish one card for you. And off camera I did made another card to use for the other girl that I did. And I used the foam tape from the 9-cent store. It's a good one. I think they used to carry it at Big Lots. I've seen it before when Big Lots had crafting supplies, but that stuff was in like the tool area at Big Lots. When I use this foam tape, I usually take a piece and cut it into little sections so it lasts a long time. Well, not a long time, but it goes farther than using one solid piece. You can get in those tiny areas really well. We're getting into the home stretch in this card. And now I'm taking a rubber stamp from the Las Vegas Stamps that says Make a Wish. And I'm using the back of one of the pieces of scrapbook paper. Oh no, I was going to use that to stamp the sentiments. But I found a piece of white cardstock from Recollections. And I'm going to be stamping that stamp. And I'm using the black archival. And you can see I don't use a black most of the time. Sometimes I do. I have to put tack it over and over again on the smaller block. And I do have two other sizes of the block that you'll see maybe in another process video that I just did tonight. And now I'm cutting that apart so it can fit on the card. And I'll be going back with Aleen's Tacky. Like I said, I did a journal page tonight, and that's also a process video, and seeing how well this will do. I might be uploading that later. That will probably be a voiceover one as well to see how this goes. And now I'm cutting off her feet and her skirt to make her fit right. And I think I left the inside blank. But I probably will put a sentiment inside later. I will be using that as a birthday card. And now it needs stickles. And I'm using Mermaid. This is old Susie Weinberg glitter glue. But before I use the stickles, I'm using the stamps that I always use for the back of my cards. The first one I stamped was a gift from my friend Janine. It's not your ordinary hand stamped card. It has my name on it, which you'll see shortly. And then the other one is a Viva Las Vegas stamps. Copyright 1996, Elmer Fudd, all rights reserved. These all rights reserved. And now there's the Pure Glitz from Susie Weinberg. It was before or just around the time of Stickles, and that is the mermaid one. I thought it was close to the colors that I'm using in the card, and I'm using it for 5 little dots on the corner because I thought it needed something. I would have put balloons or gave her a cupcake like I usually do with my cards, but her hands are behind her back. It makes it a little hard for her to hold a cupcake. Then I added a little stickles to her swimsuit on top. And there it is. I set it aside to dry because we don't want to touch stickles. And that's it for now. And thanks for watching.